Welcome, Forex and Strategy Game fans. It's Rob from eXplanation, and I'm here today with Alliance of the Sacred Sons. And who better to explain Alliance of the Sacred Sons than its developer, Steve Hawkins? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Steve, tell me about this game. Help me understand it, because it's a lot, and I've tried to kind of figure it out myself. And to be frank, I'm having a hard time. So, we are starting here with step one, which is the Quadrant Setup. Tell me what I should do.
Well, first thing you should do is, especially as you're just learning the game, I recommend setting up a small quadrant. So, quadrant is basically how many stars and constellations there are. A small quadrant will have about 14 constellations, which is plenty. Your empire size is how wide your empire is. Basically, the higher this number, the more planets that and the more stars that your empire will hold. I actually recommend setting that low to the other side to about 12,000 for your first game. Because remember, unlike in typical 4X, you're starting with an established empire. And the larger the empire, the more resources that your rival houses have. So it's good to kind of have everyone start small to kind of get a hold on things.
Awesome. And I'm imagining civs and quadrants probably should be low too.
Well, that's not in yet. You can actually add to it. That's going to be in version 9.9.
Okay.
So leave that blank, and then go ahead and hit choose culture, and I'll take you to the next step. Okay. So there are 6 primary cultures in the game, and they do have a significant impact on which houses are friendly towards you and which are not, and also the idea of ideas. So right now, ideas are in the game to an extent, but basically, Neo-American is kind of a catch-all, kind of good at everything. Technic culture is stronger in science, mercantile culture is stronger in economics, and so on and so forth. So for a starter, I would recommend using Neo-American, since that's kind of like your generic human race in typical 4X games. They're pretty tolerant. Their worldliness is pretty high. That's the one thing, which means you'll have to build a lot of retail to keep them happy, but that's not too hard. But their tolerance is pretty high. So the biggest thing is they allow migration of other cultures, and they tolerate it more than many other cultures. So once you've done that, go ahead, and those are the associated houses. So that means that in any game that you play, Hawken and House Warlock will be friendly towards you because they share a similar culture.
Very good. All right, so now we have, definitely going to go with my name.
Okay.
And
House Honecker. All
yeah,
right.
House Honecker. Let's do it.
Okay, so just choose your sigil. It can be any of those 12. More to come in the next version. And then you want primary color. Background.
Let's go maybe a red. Yes, I like red.
Now, the house traditions are very important. So you have 200 points. So basically, the higher this number, the better your house is at this. So in other words, if you have a high academic tradition, it means that your house over the centuries has become renowned for putting out academics, putting out science. So their planets will start with more academies and more academics, and they'll have a higher skill. Military is not in yet, but the other 7 categories, typically for a new player, I recommend putting about 50 into government tradition, because that's what generates your admin, which is your ADM, which is critical for projects. And then economy, I would recommend at least 40. And that's the economic tradition, which is the little coins. Because if that's low, you're going to find it very hard to find. You'll have to get other houses that have a high tradition to serve as your viceroys, which gives them power and can be problematic. I would put about 20 into academic tradition. That'll give you some base of academic. And then it's kind of as you see fit. Farming, typically, I would put maybe 10 into that. And then I would put mining. Mining can be important. This determines how many minerals that you extract from your planets. You really want to have a positive supply to help things like production and trade. So I'd put at least 30 into that. And then manufacturing, this is what you're for your factories, how many factories and how good your engineers are, and how quickly you can build new sectors on your planet. So I would actually put like 40 on that. And then for high-tech tradition, this is your power. This is what creates energy. You have what's called fluxmen. They're very rare. They're very basically hard to train. So if this is low, you're going to find it very hard to power your planet. So I would put this at least 10 or 20 as well. And now you've got about 25 points. And now it's kind of what do you want to focus on? If you want to focus more on your economy, I'd put more in economy. If you want to build, put it more in manufacturing. If you want to mine, put it in mining, so on and so forth. and I'll let you choose that.
All right. I'm usually an economic person. Actually, that's not true because I would normally choose like a manufacturing clan or a faction. Like the Clackon from the Master of Ryan series were always my favorite, but I've grown to be an economic type. So let's do it.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So now you want to hit the Impro Creation. So you'll see a summary on the left, on the right. Now on the left, all you have to do is choose your sex. If you want to be female, you can, and enter your primary name. So this will be, so whatever you put here, you'll be Emperor, Empress, so and so, Honecker the first.
All right.
So, and
And
then pick.
I'm also bald too, so this works out.
There you go. All
I'm
right.
Emperor Rob Honecker the first. I like it.
Sweet. So if everything looks good, that just kind of verifies your selections, and then hit go, and you should get the loading screen here momentarily. All right. All right. So this takes about a minute or so since you have a smaller empire. All right. So while we're waiting, what are the most important questions you have so far?
Well, so I know first off, the very first turn I have to set up an initial budget, and I usually just click yes, like approve. I'd like to know more about what I should consider when it comes to setting up my initial budget and then going from there too.
Yeah, you
So,
probably don't want to do that because you'll probably have your inquisitors will probably start quitting because you probably don't have enough money in intel. I'd be happy to show you how that works.
okay, awesome. And then yeah, then after that, let's talk about relationships because I know that's a big thing too.
It
So,
is. Yeah, your first turn, you're gonna focus on a lot of different things. Typically, a good first turn, even for a smaller empire, for me, even having built the game and programmed it for years, if I'm playing for a real serious test, I'm still going to take about 10 minutes to kind of look over everything, depending on what I'm trying to do. And the great thing about Alliance is that there's many ways to win. There's not really, it's not on rails. It's not as if you do A, B will always happen. You can't always, sometimes you're not set up for a science victory. And that's a big difference about the game. You just don't have any labs, and none of the other houses have labs either. So then it becomes harder. All right. So the first thing I look at, the very, very first thing is I go to the finance screen, which is up here, and I want to take a look at the planets. And I want to take a look and see if I have either any major planets that are bringing in income or any major sinks. So if you look to the far and see now New Terra, so that's retail. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's actually a very important part of the economic system. So New Terra is bringing you a base amount of about 679 credits. Now, here's the thing though. If you go down to the financial prime, which is on the lower right, he is only collecting 24%. That's his tax efficiency. So of that 679, he's only collecting a quarter of that. So you're only going to have about 170 billion credits go towards your gross empire product. And that's something a lot of people don't realize is if you have a poor financial prime, that's probably why your economy is having trouble. You're not collecting taxes. So any positive planets, you're not getting anything from. So I look and I see, okay, New Terra 679. Okay, that's pretty good. Dreamland is slightly negative. So that may be something I want to go in. That's costing me money directly. That's coming off my Empire product. And the thing is that 15 billion credits negative is not affected by the financial prime. A loss is a loss. There's only taxation on profit. So Zindi, yeah, negative 96 billion credits. So that's another one I'd probably want to take a look at. Like early on, I can see there's a lot of infrastructure costs, and you don't have a lot of people on there, so that's something to delve into. So Vanguard is actually making you a little bit of money, and that's something. If you have planets from other houses, that's another house. That's House Barwan. You can look at the house holdings tax. So now you have Verdancy and you have Wukwang that are costing you, but Conlong is making some money. So you have the game is set up to where you're not going to have planets that are just total pits, and you're also not going to have planets that are total. New Terra will be generally your main driver of income early on. So this is a pretty standard start, honestly. So let's take a look at the budget now that you have an idea of kind of where your money's coming and going. So your military, that determines how much power essentially, and this will change when the military system builds in, but right now, the more money you put into military, the more your citizens will be basically prevented from rioting. It will basically decrease their unrest, and it will also increase your power. So essentially, this is you putting money towards the military, spreading out kind of a generic military force across your empire. So if you crank it up very high, your power will go up fairly significantly each turn. However, your fear will go up as well. And that's usually not a good thing. And we'll talk more about the fear love system in a little bit. And then domestic, if you crank that up, that will make your people happier. So it will cut unrest not nearly as much as the military, because it's a lot cheaper to point a gun at someone than it is to, provide subsidies, which is essentially what you're doing. But it will increase the economies of your planets across the empire. It will also make your people a lot happier, and it will decrease fear and increase your love, which is basically your popular support. Intel. So you see their anticipated Inquisitor budget for the year. So right now, your Inquisitors, depending on their skill level, cost a certain amount of money per year. So you are free to not put. So basically, in order to make sure they won't leave you, you have to put at least 180 billion credits into that. Now, anything over that is considered overage, and that can go for what are called informers. And these are basically paid pops that inform on things that happen on a planet, whether it be rumors, whether it be plots, whether it be character intel. So it's good to have an overage there if you can. Otherwise, whatever that chance of squad disbandment, if it's anything below 0 or above 0, then that is rolled basically every month to see if you have any squads that leave you because you can't pay them or they're not willing to work for as much. So reforms is basically your labs in your academies. So right now, your academy efficiency is at 22%, which is super low. So you're not going to have enough money to crank it. You can go as high as 125%. You can kind of overcharge them a little bit, so to speak, but it's very expensive to do that. So I would just try to get it as high as you can if you want to put money into science, which I do recommend, because it looks like you have a lot of labs. If you only have a 32 efficiency and you're putting that much in. And then savings is just anything if, say, you don't want to spend for whatever reason. And one way you lose the game, do you see the current player house treasury below your current gross empire product on the panel to the right? It's 1,755 billion credits. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so if that ever falls to 0 and your gross empire product is below 0, then your empire is bankrupt and you lose. You are basically assassinated and your empire falls.
Awesome.
Because you've gone bankrupt and your empire collapses. So anytime you have a negative gross empire product, you must add a subsidy in order to, which is that kind of the thing next to the budget. Basically, that's money that you pull from your personal treasury and add it to the budget. And you can actually even do this now. You could add up to your entire treasury, though I definitely don't recommend doing that. You might add maybe 200 or 300, but keep in mind that if you do that, you lose 25 power. And as you know, if your power ever gets to 0, you lose the game. You become a figurehead. So, it's kind of the power balance is a huge part of the game. So, what I would personally recommend is, because you have a lot of labs, I would actually go ahead and add that subsidy. You have a fair amount in your treasury. I would put savings at 0 so that you can use it. And remember, you can right click on any of the sliders to lock it. So yeah, there you go. And then so that would be my recommendation. I would put Intel. If you're low on cash, I would maybe put the chance of disbandment at maybe 5%, because it checks it every month. But hey, it's kind of taking a risk. And worst thing can happen is you lose a squad, and they will be your most and your best squad, unfortunately, because that's the one usually demanding the most money. And then early on, I typically put a fair amount into military, because it's a good way of getting power. And you're going to find that a lot of your governors and house leaders are going to demand things of you. And you want to have kind of a power buffer to kind of overcome that. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we get into that. So if you want to add that subsidy, you need to go ahead and click the Add Subsidy 25 Power button. Okay, so it's been added. So now you see those amounts have gone up relative, but you see your power went down to 337 at the top center.
Okay, that's what I was actually about to ask. Yeah. Okay, so here is where my
That's
power
your
is.
power.
Yeah, I was mousing over it before, thinking that was probably my power. Okay, so if I want to maybe adjust now that I've got this, I'll come back here, lock this, and now my reforms are much higher. So that's great.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, when you have more money, you can kind of put more into that. And you're going to have to probably replace that finance prime. I'm telling you now,
Yeah,
that's
he
a terrible.
sucks.
Here's the problem, but okay, so he's Milok. So we'll need to go look at your house situation. That's going to be our next step before you do anything rash. So when you're satisfied with the budget, click the budget button, and it will submit. Okay, you can go ahead and close this. Okay, next thing you need to do is look at your house situation. This is really critical because your house relations will make or break your game. In order to win the game, you basically have to get a higher power score than the ZIL. If you look on the upper center middle, so they have an expected power of 3,000. So your houses have a power rating, and so you have to get them allied with you, and this includes military, economic strength, how many every time you build a colony or an outpost, that increases it as well. And basically, at the end of the game, now this will change when the actual mechanic is fully fleshed out, but this is a way to kind of win and complete the game right now. So at 114 turns, the ZIL basically will appear, and you will have a roll against your current alliance score. And anything higher than the ZIL will be a better chance. Anything less will be a lesser chance. So you want to try to get as many houses allied with you as possible, because when they are allies, their house score, their power score will be added to yours.
Okay, so my power score being like
your power score is 991. You can see the power if you house. You see your house sigil on the button bar on the left, well, where it says Emperor Rob Honig. Okay, that's your house overview, and then that's your power 991. So right now you're not allied with anybody, so you have to start making friends. But the question is, who are you going to make friends with? Because you can't make friends with everybody. You just can't, because of the way the other houses have their own relationships with each other. And we talked about the cultural differences, So go ahead and click on the house screen. So click on your sigil. Okay. So this tells you kind of your house situation. So right now, Hawken, remember when we said, okay, Horlock and Hawken will be allied with you. So right now, they are cooperating with you. So if you go ahead and put your hover over there. Okay, so basically right now y'all are out. So their power right now is added to your score. So your total score right now is 991. I'm sorry, I didn't think anyone was allied with you yet. I guess they are. So that 991 does represent, your score. The thing is, though, they're not very powerful. So one thing you can do is you can bump up their power, and there's a lot of ways to go about that. Or you can look to add the most powerful house, which right now is Van Rigel. But right now you have a Cold War relationship. They're at the top. They go in order of most powerful, least powerful. So Cold War is basically, they're not really happy with you, but they're not actively at war with you. They're not actively trying to destroy the empire. They're just basically not happy with you and not really willing to work with you. So this screen is super important because it tells you what your relationships are, the relative power, and you can get more information. Like you see some of them have question marks. That means you don't have very little intel on them, and you get intel by either informers, building an Empire Intelligence Center on their capital planet, or by assigning an Inquisitor to that house and getting information directly. So let's do this. This is something that I typically do. Like I can see Van Rigel. I'm probably going to go ahead and click on Van Rigel. So their skills. So here's the house tradition levels in the center. So they're a traditionalist culture, and their manufacturing is their strength. So they have wicked high manufacturing viceroys. So if you have planets that are struggling with factory output or building factories, you can stick a Van Rigel character and make them a viceroy on one of your planets. Problem is, if your relationship is poor, they won't be available to do that. You have to have Cold War is the highest relation level you can have to even have them consider working for you. If it's anything below that, if it's limited war or total war, they won't ever be available. So if you lose a house, if they become limited war or total war, none of their characters will be available for projects or for viceroy or for any governorships or anything, and you'll lose their skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what changes? Like, how does that change from going to Cold War to limited war? What like, is it just because they become angry at me for something I've done, or something that like something has changed between the dynamic? How does that work?
Yeah. So if you look at the lower left under Emperor Reputation,
Yep.
so you have a negative and a positive Emperor Reputation. everything you do in the game, every action you take, every project you build, every choice you make in a story or response to a house will increase or decrease your emperor reputation. So if it gets below negative 500 for the total score, which is in the center, then you will automatically reduce relations to the next level and will reset at 0. So in other words, if you with Van Rigel went to negative 500 or lower, and you'll get alerts when this is getting down there, you'll get event basically saying, hey, watch out. You need to start maybe making nice, doing some things like giving them planets, giving them holdings, major stuff, bribes, whatever. And on the positive side, if it goes above 200, then you'll get an action to increase relations, and that will you'll basically go before the house leader and say, hey, I want a better relationship. And it's an action. And if they agree, then you'll go up one level. And it goes, Cold War, neutral, which is a Z, and then there's cooperation and alliance, indifferent. So indifferent is basically just indifferent. There's no penalties or bonuses. You're just kind of live and let live. So, as I said, though, you cannot make friends with everyone in the game. I mean, you cannot make everyone your ally, because eventually, if you do start adding 2 and 3 and 4 houses, the houses that are not allied are going to start basically fighting back, because they're going to think that they're going to get jumped by this kind of major alliance. And so what usually ends up happening is they band together. And then, of course, when the military system's added, that will have a lot more impact. So right now, it just makes it much harder for you to improve relations with them. So what I would do in this case right now, knowing that Van Rigel is the most powerful house, and they have 5 holdings. So that number at the upper when you see that's 5 holdings, that's a lot. So they're basically holding, every other house has 1. So they're definitely have the whip hand as far as your other great houses. So you probably need to assign an inquisitor to them to kind of find out more about what they're doing. So go ahead. Yeah. So I would put one of the 4. So the 4 is your ops rating. I'm sorry, your spy rating, and the 1 is your special ops rating. So I would put 1 with a 4 because it makes it much quicker for them to start prepping the mission. It takes them much less time to actually get that started, and then you earn more intel every turn. So okay, so. And that does take an action point. So you see you're down to 2 AP. So just something to consider. So
help me understand. Where is the AP? There we go. All right, cool.
So that changes dynamically. So it goes from green to yellow to red. So you need at least 2 action points to do a project, and 1 action point for pretty much anything else. So an action, or to assign an inquisitor, or to make a change in a major system like science. So okay, so you kind of know where you stand. So this is something I look at. So now I know, okay, Van Rigel, they're probably going to be my big enemy. Hawkins, I probably need to start thinking about boosting up, because they're not very powerful. It might be worth it giving them a holding to kind of increase their power, especially if it's kind of a not great planet, because you see their specialty is science and energy. So if you have an energy-rich planet that they might be able to exploit better, because you didn't put a whole lot into your energy, it might be worth giving them the energy-rich planet. So. But again, the beauty of it, there's so many different ways to go about it. There's not any one path to win the game or to even get people on your side. You just kind of have to look and see what makes sense. So
how do I give them a planet? I'd like to do that.
Okay, so close out okay. So first we need to find a planet. So let's open up the mains. So go to the icon that has like 3 lines on it. It's next to the other. No, that's your science next. We'll get to that one there. So we need to kind of look at your planets and see which ones have a high energy rating. So we look at New Terra. You can't give them New Terra. And that's going to be over on the left side by the actual names. This is a screen that I'm going to kind of work on. So right now, Zindi has a 76 rating. That's probably the one that I would give, especially because it's a losing planet for you. It's losing money. So you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only do you make them happy, but then you also give away a money-losing planet. So then it's their problem. So go ahead and click on the planet. So you're going to go into planet mode, and then you're going to talk to the Viceroy. So you're going to click on the Viceroy's, and this is how you open up their character screen. So there's a lot going on here, but for now, you just need to go to House Actions. It's one of the actions. And then go to reassign emperor holding to house. So this will actually now get you in touch with their house leader. So basically, you're going through them to say, hey, I would like to, well, you're going to give it to Hawken. So actually, you can click on any house. So now you go directly to their house leader. And so now you see the Grand Vizier analysis. This is actually a really important part. You see where it says decision score between 30 and 38, and your power is 337. So this is a way of kind of understanding, not always, if you don't have a lot of intel, that decision score gets a lot more less stable. It could be like 30 and 400 if you don't have very little intel. But if you have high intel on this character, then it will be pretty solid. So they're basically going to say okay. But if it's yellow or red, you probably don't want to go through with it. So go ahead and hit confirm. So yeah, they're going to say yes. So of course, Your Majesty, our house will take exquisite care of this piece of the empire. Know that it is always in good hands. So now when you close the screen, it will now belong to Hawken. As you can see, it's already in Hawken's name. So at this point, now go back to the house screen. Just the where you click on, well, no, go to the houses. You got to get out of there. There you go. Okay, now click on, whoa, look at that. Look at your reputation. You gave them a really nice planet. So they're pretty happy. So you could now, if you weren't already at the best relationship, you could already, talk to the house leader and ask for a better relationship, but you're already at allies. So, but you see the power. I mean, when you give someone a holding, that's literally the most powerful thing you can do, because you're giving up a part of your demesnes. And what's nice too is that your other houses see that, and they're kind of happy too, because one thing they don't want to see, it's kind of like Crusader Kings. You have like a demesnes where if you start getting too powerful and you start getting too many, provinces, then the other dukes and whatnot, they get a little unrest.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of the same thing. So when they see you giving up a part of your power, that's a good thing. They don't want to see, the main house or the ruling house, which is yours, get too powerful. So that will actually make them happy as well. Of course, they'll be much happier if it's you just gave it to them outright, but they're pleased to see that you're diminishing your power. So
got it. All right. So yes, I just went through and clicked through all of them, and all of them have a slight reputation boost.
Yeah, and it's there's some randomness, and it depends on your relationship with them, and if they're unhappy with you, it'll be less of it. It won't go up as high as if someone that's kind of neutral. So Halcyon should be a better improvement than say Van Rigel. 45 and 18. Yeah. So that's one way of doing it. That's a very extreme way of doing it, but that's certainly an option to you. So, but you have a lot of planets, so you have that option, and that will also strengthen them.
And
okay.
These are all of my planets. So these are all planets that my house owns, right?
That's in your empire.
Okay.
So the empire. So your sigil tells you the planets that are yours. So you have Dreamland, New Terra, and then you have to scroll down. And I'm going to put some filters on this. This window is very incomplete. It's going to look a lot different with the UI upgrade. So, but it's functional. It's just sometimes a little hard to find things. But yeah, so you can do the reverse. You can actually take a back. But if you do that, you can actually remove a holding from an empire and take it back. But then that's going to piss off every house, especially the house that you stole it from, for obvious reasons.
Right.
For basically the reverse reasons of giving away holding. But sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you just have to take the hit because you got a house that's running out of control and they hate you anyway. So, if they choose not to give it to you, basically you go to war, and that's pretty rare. So, okay. So you've got one action point left. Let's go to your science screen real quick, because that's the other thing that you're going to want to look at. Okay. So the way that science works, it's pretty simple, actually. So every house can go up to, should go up 150. It might be a little bug, but 175% should be capped at 150. I'll have to look at that. And that represents basically how much output that they are asking their scientists to give to you. So you'll see that the houses that hate you, like remember Bar 1 is Milok Cold War is only at 3%. And it makes sense. They're not going to ask their scientists to work on your behalf if you hate each other. So that number has to do a lot with their efficiency, their own science score, and of course the house's relationship towards you. So right now you are at 29% because that's the output that you set. So right now Remember, you didn't put a whole lot towards reform, so that's going to kind of hurt it. But Hawken is known for their science, and that's something else that helps you. So when you add up all the, we call them quantum bytes, just because it sounds cool. So right now, based on the 6 houses and the academies that they have, and that the scientists that they have, you are having an output of 14.7 quantum bytes of data. So now your job on a macro scale as the emperor is to simply decide where you want to distribute it. Do you want to distribute it towards reforms or towards practicals? Now, reforms, and you can click on any of those, and those give you click on any of those or subcategories. So when you put one in green, that creates a focus for that category. So that basically says right now, I'm going to put 7.3 quantum bytes towards diplomacy 1. So go ahead and click on the bar. Just click on there you go. And it will show you what you have available. Now, right now, you're not always guaranteed to get every single reform that you can get. So right now, there's a roll that happens every 5 months, basically twice a year. And so right now, you rolled government field training as being available. So if you get a breakthrough, you're getting government field training. You could roll later and get basic riot control or viceroy command nexus or a governor command nexus, but you didn't roll any of those. So those are a little bit more rare. And it kind of shows you what they do, the effects, and any prerequisites. So, to go up a level and to get better reforms, you have to research any three at that level. But the thing is, once you go up a level, you can never go back. So you basically, do I wait around for a reform that I really want or really need to get a next level one, or do I just kind of say screw it? And there's going to be more added. There's more than was in the last bill. There's going to end up being about 120 reforms and practicals. So there'll be plenty of choice. Yeah, this is going to be a big part of the game. So what I typically focus on is prosperity and harmony, because this gives you a lot of good stuff like planetary retail hubs, kind of set up your like system entertainment complexes, planetary beautification. This kind of helps your unrest and increases your planetary happiness. When your pops are happier on a planet, they output more. When they're not as happy, they don't. And eventually they can leave and go to other, you don't want them to go to other houses, planets. You want them to be with you. Planetary retail hubs. This begins setting up if you want to have play in a retail form. You can set up hubs in a system, and then they have system and province retail networks. And this basically increases output of income related to retail. And I'll go into the retail system in a bit when we go to the economic mode, but that's typically what I do. And you've got a lot of good, so you've got every single one. So when you get a certain amount of point, so go ahead and go out of there. So the way it works, okay, so prosperity. Right now you have a 0% discovery chance. So every turn that it'll split it, so 50-50. So right now 7.3, was that 3.7-ish, 3.65 quantum bytes will go towards harmony, 3.65 quantum bytes will go towards prosperity. And then each turn you'll get a slightly higher discovery chance. So every turn the game rolls, and you can have a discovery chance at 5%. So it's not like a typical 4X where after 5 turns you get the breakthrough. That's not, because that's kind of unrealistic. It could be you get a breakthrough almost immediately. It could be it takes 20 turns. You'll never quite know. Once you get a breakthrough, at that point, you will have broken through and gotten an insight into one of those technologies that is available. So at that point, you can choose to continue in that and go ahead and research that, or you can kill that project. There'll be a little kill button that shows up. But if you kill a project, you'll never get the opportunity to research it again. So gotcha. There's definitely some more fungibility in the research system. So as an emperor, because remember, as an emperor, one of the things we talk about is your scale. You're not a gray eminence. You're not directing. You're not going down to every lab and micromanaging the output of every scientist. No, at this level, you'd be like, okay, I want to put the majority of our resource towards reforms. I want to help better the empire. Or I want to put it towards war machines. We need to build more warships and war theory and focus on the ZIL. So that's will always be red because there's no ZIL, that hasn't been put in yet. And then you'll have psi warfare, and that's a part of the ZIL as well. Your emperor actually will have some latent psychic abilities, but that's kind of a secret for 0.9. But you'll have to research it. So that's the top level decision you'll make. And then from there, you say, I want to focus on these things. And then you would get reports periodically saying, hey, we have this project that we believe we can accomplish this. And you would say, yeah, that sounds good. Go for it, or no, kill it. So that's your scope.
So with that being said, because the practical research stuff isn't in place yet, should I just go ahead and hit it all?
For now, I put it at 100. Yeah.
Okay, good to go.
Yeah, but normally, yes, that would be no. But you have to hit. Oh, go back to it.
Oh, sorry.
Go back to the. You have to actually lock it in.
Oh, yep, there we go.
So
gotcha.
Make the change. So when you do it every year, you can do it once a year, and it doesn't cost any power. Otherwise, it costs 25 power. You can't. One thing I really like about the Europa Universalis games is that you can't just change your empire on a whim. It takes like 10 years to make a change towards your cultural trees and things like that. I really like that because I don't think you should just be allowed to change your fundamental culture and fundamental. This is a huge empire, and you don't have the ability. I know we talked about this in the podcast. You don't have the ability to just change it on a dime. So. Right. If you make those changes, you're basically pissing off your people, and you're leaning on a lot of your subordinates to go in and make a lot of changes. That's why it costs power, to change your budget. That's why it costs power to change your science, because you're leaning outside the system to do something extraordinary, and you're giving up a portion of your influence to do that.
Understood. All right. So what's next? I mean, what should I consider to use this last point for?
So, I mean, you can use it for a whole lot of things. One thing that I like to do is I like to look at my planets. Oh, we talked about changing your economic prime. So go back to the economic mode. Remember, we said it was at 24%. So Milok, you have a new. I believe you have a neutral. Go ahead and click on them. Go ahead and click on the financial prime, and then hover over the Milok sign on the character. It'll be on the character. There you go. No, you got to go up to the upper left. There you go. Okay, so now you have a Cold War relationship. So you're going to really piss them off. If you fire, basically what you're doing is firing this guy. And a prime is basically like your celestial council. They serve at the right hand of the emperor. So you have a financial prime, war prime, intel prime, domestic prime, and a science prime. And this forms your celestial council along with your grand vizier. So this is a great deal of power and prestige. So if you fire someone from it, not only are they going to be royally pissed, but their house is going to be unhappy too, because they're going to lose prestige and power as well. So you can do that. You can remove from post. And see that number to the right where it says like 30 and 25 and 20.
Yep.
So if it's in green, it means that you will gain 20 power from that action. So basically, if you challenge or insult someone and they respond, they accept your challenge, you will gain 20 power. Because remember, power is like influence. This is your people are watching everything you do. And this is kind of a crux system of alliance. It does matter what your people think of you. If they think you're a coward, if they think you're powerless, if you just sit turn after turn and do nothing, your power is going to drop. It's a lot about influence and ascribe power. So if they see you backing down to a house leader, or even worse, like a system governor or a viceroy, you're going to take a big power hit because it's shown as being cowardly. But if you're shown as standing up to them, then that they're going to basically see you and you're going to accrue more power. And you'll see how that works next turn. You'll start getting some of those comm systems next turn. But for now, you have to decide, and I'm going to let you make this choice because I don't want to just put the game on rails. But you have to basically, if you remove this person, Milok is going to be very unhappy with you. And this person is probably going to plot. They're going to be dropped to a courtier, and they're probably going to possibly start a plot against you. Now, they won't have a lot of power, so it probably won't come to anything, but it's something you have to think about. They're not a very good character. They're very weak. And one is very weak. Plus, they're afraid of you. They have you have a prey relationship, so that's why they're kind of scared when they talk to you. So that's a plot. So if you want to replace them, if you want to replace them, so you can look on the zone. If you go to system or province or empire, it'll filter. Typically, you want your empire economic prime to have a high economic skill. Go figure. So you can actually mouse on them. Now, that's something I'm going to add. Filter. Now, here's the thing, though. If you don't have enough intel on them, you're not going to know. So this is kind of something where you may want to get a little more intel. If you've got a person that looks like they could be good. Okay, so here's Iloa. So you got to look at this. Okay, so he's got 100, which is great. He's very intelligent. You don't have a good relation. He is afraid of you. You have a prey relationship, and that's pretty common as a new emperor. People have a lot less power than you. He only has a power of 31, and you have a power of 325. So yeah, and this would make Iloa very happy. It would make him very happy, and remember that you'd be working with him too. So since he's not hating you, we talk about those relationships. He would probably be a good person to put there. Yeah. So okay. So he left. He's now you want a favor. I don't like it, but I'll go if only good. So basically, he agreed to go. So now when you go back into hit close screen. Okay, so now he's a courtier. So now when you're going to need to reopen go ahead and right click. You always right click to get out of any screen. Okay, so get out of that, and it doesn't update yet. So now when you go hey, look at that.
Nice.
So now you're getting a bonus. But now go to your house screen. Let's see what the ramifications of that were. So Iloa.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they're not. They're kind of happy with you. But go to Milak.
It's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah. It's not terrible. I mean, there's a lot worse thing. Taking a holding is the worst thing you can. That's like the number one thing.
Gotcha.
I actually had to decrease this because this was like a huge, if you knock someone out, it was like a huge, like 150 point loss. And that seemed really harsh because it kind of handicapped the player. So, but you see, you did take a hit.
Right. Yeah.
Milak is happy. So, if you want to start getting Milak happier with you, this is one way to do it. So you start to see, so in order to, and it makes common sense, thinking common sense, like how, if I wanted to make a country, I would put their characters in important positions. I would give them holdings. I would give them money. I would include them in projects. I mean, if you think about in common sense, if it would help you, then it would probably work in the game as well. And if you think it was something that would piss them off in real life, then it will probably piss them off in the game. So
I think that's a really good base. I really do. I think that's a great foundation for me to kind of push myself forward now and play some turns and see how it goes. Maybe we can do this again and maybe fast forward like 5 turns, 10 turns and see what we do maybe at that point. Would that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to, when you have some more questions about the command modes and of course planetary management, that's an important part. And then of course we haven't talked about trade or retail or any of that, but I mean, we could spend hours on this. I know we want to kind of break it out, but yeah, that will give you a good base of kind of what you're trying to do. And then let me give you one more screen. Go up to the Viceroy or the Grand Vizier. You see the button? Yeah. This is something a lot of people don't know is even here. But this kind of gives you some goals, some things that you should be doing. So right now, this tells you, you should probably increase your love to at least 65%. Your gross down prior product should be at least 2,000. You don't have any projects. And then there's some additional stuff depending on what you are or are not working on. And then importantly, it'll give you some additional issues. If you have like a house that's very unhappy, or if you have a planet that's very unhappy, or, if you're about to go bankrupt or something bad is about to happen, your assassination chance is increasing, then this will tell you here and it'll give you a chance. I recommend looking at the screen every turn. Just glancing at it, and your Grand Vizier is there to kind of give you advice and kind of help you along. So
yeah, I don't like this underlying sarcasm here.
No, he's loyal.
Okay.
He'll never be. He was the only character in the game that will never betray.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Because the ahem made me feel like maybe there was something behind all that. But all right. Well, yes, I think this is a great foundation for me to, because at this point I understand the general gist of things and what I'm looking for and how the power structure works and how, giving holdings and stuff like that affects the various houses and stuff. So I think, absolutely I'd want more, but I think this is a great point for me to like kind of explore a little bit now that I know what does what, and maybe we can come back and start talking more about, like you were talking about retail and some of the planetary stuff, and we'll do that next episode if that's good with you.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to show you one last thing.
Yes, sir.
If you go to the intern button, do you see the little plus button?
Yep.
That's going to be the start of the Alliancepedia. Go ahead, click on it. And this is going to be where you can get additional help.
Oh, great.
I need to fix that thing, which I'll do tomorrow. But basically, whatever mode you're in and whatever level, whether you're in a system or planet or province or galaxy mode, it will give you context sensitive help. And then it will also, so it'll tell you what you can do in each mode. Like you're in galaxy view. If you click on a system, just go to any mode, click on a system. Just any system. Doesn't matter. And then go back to that. Go back to the plus. See, now you're in system view. So it tells you exactly what you can do and then what mode you're in. If you go to command mode, on the galaxy mode, it'll show you, it won't show anything on the system view, but on the galaxy view, it'll show you each command mode, what you can do in that mode. So, oh, you know why? Because it's an overview. Go to like economy. Or no, not Nexus, but the economic command mode. I'm sorry.
Which one's that?
Or any command. It doesn't really matter. Demographics, fine. That's fine. And now click on the plus, and then go to command. Okay, there we go.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
All right, very good.
But it shows you kind of, it just kind of helps you get around the game. And this is going to be something that's fleshed out quite a bit, and there'll be a lot more concepts. Pretty much each major release will have additional help in this area to where we become kind of a Civilopedia in the Civ games. It'll kind of be to that point. So, we're really trying to make the game more accessible. I'm so glad that you wanted to do this because I think this will help a lot of people kind of understand like this first turn. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't even know what to do. And this will at least get people like, okay, now I see what I need to do. This is how I need to approach characters. This is what I need to do with great houses. And then the details can kind of be filled in as we go along.
Absolutely. I think it'd be a nice little series. And of course, if you have any questions or comments or anything that you want to either ask me or Steve, please leave it in the comments below. And unless you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Great. Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's a great foundation, like I said. So until next time, thanks for being here and thanks for being with me, Steve, this time. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. See you.
All right. Thank you.